Briefly, I just want to ask you about some other Senate business. Minority Leader Mitch McConnell railed today against President Biden's speech in Georgia. The president was pushing for the Senate to change its filibuster rules to pass voting rights legislation, compared lawmakers as segregationists. Just for our viewers, I want to play some of what McConnell said and then ask you to respond.
To demonize Americans who disagree with him, he compared, listen to this, a bipartisan majority of senators to literal traitors. How profoundly unpresidential. The president's rant yesterday was incoherent, incorrect, and beneath his office.
What do you make of that? I mean, given his silence during the Trump administration.
I'll tell you what is beneath one's office, and that is to have senators like McConnell, apologists for Republican governors and legislatures all over this country, who are with surgical precision trying to suppress the vote, coming up with extreme gerrymandering, working on legislation which will take away the rights of independent election officials and give them some partisan Republican majorities. There is a massive effort right now, worst in modern American history, to undermine the very foundations of American democracy, and that's all built on the big lie that Trump really won the election in 2020, absolutely fictitious. But that's what Republicans are peddling right now, and it is absolutely imperative that every member of the Democratic caucus, all 50 of us, plus the vice president, vote to pass the Freedom to Vote Act to overturn this outrageous anti-democratic action that's taking place in numerous states all over this country.
This is a fringe conspiracy theory, but I have to ask you because it's showing up in congressional hearings raised by House and Senate Republicans. An Arizona man, Ray Epps, he's become a target of what appears to be a completely baseless right-wing conspiracy that he was actually an undercover FBI agent or informant or operative at the Capitol on January 6th last year, that he was planted by the government. This is the conspiracy theory, planted by the government to encourage the insurrection. Now, from his public profile and from reports I've seen about Epps, it appears that he's a Trump supporter and a former member of the Arizona branch of the far right-wing group, the Oath Keepers. Has the January 6th committee looked into this accusation at all to see if there's any truth to it?
Yes, they have, Jake. In fact, the committee put out a statement yesterday saying that they have interviewed and talked with Ray Epps about his conduct around the Capitol on January 6th, and that they specifically asked Epps if he's ever been employed by any federal government agency, specifically the FBI, to which he told them no. They also specifically asked him if he was an informant. He also said that he has never at any point in his life been an FBI informant. Now, this part of this conspiracy, there's absolutely no evidence of which to back up, is that at one point Epps was on a list of individuals that the FBI was looking for as it relates to activity related to the Capitol insurrection, and then he was eventually taken off that list. The conspiracy theorists have run wild with that, many of them members of Congress, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tommy Massey, even Senator Ted Cruz of Texas. Of course, none of that has to do with his status as an FBI informant, because as the committee found out by asking him directly, he simply never was. And that's the facts of this matter. Not, Jake, that it may matter to some of the folks peddling this conspiracy.
Wait a second. They thought that the FBI put an image of one of their undercover operatives online and said wanted and then took it off? That makes no sense at all.
That's the most specific piece of, quote-unquote, evidence that they've offered when it comes to this particular conspiracy theory, Jake. There's just nothing else that would lend you to believe that there's any facts behind it.
Yeah, not exactly a Mensa group there. Ryan Nobles, thanks so much.
The former president for years are split on whether he'll run again in 2024. Now, the only person who truly knows his thinking has weighed in. In an interview airing today on National Public Radio, he took aim at one of his potential opponents, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, also at Republicans who've been speaking out against the big lie. In fact, in his phone interview with NPR's Steve Inskeep The man from Mar-a-Lago said it's an advantage to keep talking about 2020, even as he continued spreading more lies about it. That is, until he was confronted with one too many facts and hung up.
Why is it that you think that the vast majority of your allies in the United States Senate are not standing behind you? We did have that statement by Mike Rounds.
Because Mitch McConnell is a loser. And frankly, Mitch McConnell, if he were on the other side and if Schumer were put in his position, he would have been fighting this like you've never seen before. He would have been fighting this because when you look at it, and this is a long way from over, people have no idea how big this issue is and they don't want it to happen again. It shouldn't be allowed to happen and they don't want it to happen again. And the only way it's not going to happen again is you have to solve the problem of the presidential rigged election of 2020.
Mr. President,
if I
one more question. I want to ask about a court hearing yesterday on January 6th. Judge Amit Mehta, he's gone. Okay.
Joining us, CNN political analyst, New York Times Washington correspondent, longtime Trump authority, I guess we could say, Maggie Haberman. Maggie, thanks for joining us. You heard the interview this morning. I'm wondering what your takeaway was.
My takeaway is that it actually felt, and I think that Caitlin Collins made this point on last night's show, it sounded very familiar to what we saw in the briefing room or at press conferences with former President Trump over the course of 4 years. And then the campaign before that, he tries to set the agenda. He tries to say what he wants. In this case, he clearly wants to keep spreading his lies about the 2020 election and name call any Republican who challenges him. What is interesting is he does not want to talk about January 6th. And you can see that. He wants to talk about the election. He doesn't want to talk about what happened that day.